I'd like to call to order the meeting, 6 PM. And if you could do a roll call, Ms.
Sure. Mayor Mark Jacobs,
Present.
Vice Chair Denise Stabley,
Here.
Secretary Walconis,
Here.
Treasurer Lori,
Here.
Trustee Baydoun, Trustee Barry,
Here.
Trustee Hyder, Trustee Walker, Trustee Bazey. Okay, roll has been taken.
So we have a quorum.
Yes, we have enough for a quorum, 5.
All right, next on the agenda, we have introductions, but I don't think that we need any introductions tonight. And so we'll move on to item number 3, which is approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. We have, the agenda has been approved, and we will move on to the consent agenda items.
Now, you probably want to take a vote.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I made a motion to
once we-
approve it.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Once there's a motion and a second, then there's a vote to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay. We'll take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Nay? With none? Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda items. Need a motion?
I'll move, but there's questions after it gets seconded.
Okay. Do we have support?
I support.
Okay.
Discussion would be, on our financials, or payables, we do not have, or I didn't see, couldn't find, like your salary, not salary, but your pay, how many hours. I know with city, we break it down for all our contracts. They work X amount of hours, we already know what the pay is, and then what the final pay is. So in the future, I guess it'd be nice to have that.
Yes, sir. So are you asking for a bi-weekly break, or a monthly breakdown, or bi-weekly, the pay is done bi-weekly, and then our meetings are monthly, so how do you wish that to be presented?
Well, if you're given a monthly financial, what do we pay you for the month?
Understood.
You know? Also, I think the board should get, when we get a lawyer's bill, since they are the clients also, they should be informed of who asked for what and how many hours, and the itemized bill of what the lawyer's bill is, since they are entitled to that.
Okay.
And that's all I have on that.
Yes, sir. We can make that happen for moving forward with the future meetings.
Okay. So we'll take a vote on the consent agenda items. All those in favor, aye.
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 Nay? Passes 6-0. Moving on to the action items. The first item we have is nominations for chair. Do we have any nominations from the board?
I would nominate you, Denise Stabley, since you were vice chair, and just to move up, that would be my nomination.
I agree with the mayor.
I agree.
I would be willing to
Well,
accept.
first would be, does anybody else have a want to
Yeah,
nominate?
are there any other nominations from the board? Any other nominations? Okay. Voting can take place then. We'll look for a motion.
I'll motion to vote for Denise Stabley as chairperson.
Do we have support?
I second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes Next, we have the donations to Straight Farmhouse.
First, do we want,
Before you move on to that, can I interject that now that you moved into chair position, we now have a vacancy for vice chair.
Correct.
So I think it'd be in the board's best wishes to move into nominations for a vice chair position,
Okay.
to
I
fill
would
that
agree.
seat as well.
Do we have any nominations for the vice chair position? Or is anyone on the board interested in the vice chair position?
You have 3 other people.
Can we table that until more of us are here, or do we have to do that right now?
we could table it.
You can table it.
Okay, all right.
Does anyone else vote for that?
Yeah, table it,
Motion.
3 other
motion
days.
Motion to
in order
table
to
and,
Table? The nomination for vice chair? Do we have a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Motion.
Oh, I thought I did. Okay.
Support, sorry. Did anyone support that?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Nay? Motion passes 6-0. And now we can move on to the donations to the Straight Farmhouse. Do we have a motion for the donation to Straight Farmhouse?
This is the
Or do
first
we
I'm
have any
hearing of it.
direction?
Just to give a little history on this, so the Lucky Squirrel has been, generating income for the DDA, and the Straight Farmhouse has supplied us with volunteer workers to run those events. In the past, the Straight Farmhouse has received donations back from the profits of the Lucky Squirrel events. Historically, it's been approximately $1,000 per event. So that's just, for your information, for those of you that didn't know the history. But you can move forward however you wish.
So what is the net proceeds from each event? Typically?
If you look in your packet, probably about 3 more pages deep, you'll find a profit and loss breakdown of what has been income so far and what the expenses have been. So as of right now, to date, it's been $6,700 in income after expenses.
Okay,
So there's a couple of other expenses that'll come up for the next, we have some small ancillary things such as signage we're gonna produce. It's gonna cost a small amount of money. But this isn't the entirety of the income as well. We have about 45% filled for July, and we have about 55% to 60% filled for September. So there's still gonna be more income on top of this. This is just to date as of today.
okay. And the $300 expenses for each event that we have as well?
That was-
Correct?
It
Doesn't-
could be the same, it could be different.
Okay.
I'm not sure, this is the first one, so I'm assuming it's going to be close to similar to
Okay.
what is being presented. It's
Okay.
not too much overhead that goes into this event.
So we're just looking at $1,000 then is the average donation to the Straight
Per
Farmhouse?
event.
Per event.
Yeah, my recommendation is
Awesome.
you pay that out, if you just look at, we had one event, and then you pay a donation according to that first event, and then we revisit for the second and the third.
So we're not looking at it like a percentage of what we're bringing in net?
No,
Or
it's just a monetary amount.
Okay,
Yeah, but then since we had people pay ahead, that's why we've got 6,700 this time. If you're saying take a percentage, next event could be half of that because half paid for 2 months. So,
No, I wasn't saying take a percentage. What I was saying was, this is the income to date right now, which is all 3 events combined, okay? Including, after expenditures. But payouts, like for donations or something similar to this, what I'm recommending is you pay that per event. We got some more income coming in, that's to be determined, we don't know. This is reflected of May, July, and September of payments so far. So
Do
you
we-
could do it either way. I mean,
Right.
it's up to you, but
do we know, like, so last year there was only 2 Lucky Squirrel events.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know what the net was on those two for last
I
year to
don't have
kind of
that in
base
front of me
that?
tonight.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, we need a motion if everyone is okay with $1,000 to donate to the Straight Farmhouse.
I'd make a motion for $1,000 for this event right now,
Support.
based on this one.
Okay, then we'll take a vote. Ayes?
Aye.
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 Nays? Motion passes 6-0. Yes? That's at the end, I think.
Typically, if you have a motion, you would have a second, a motion and a second.
Right,
And then you would have any information or questions and comments from the board itself. And then you would have any questions or comments from the general public. And then
Okay.
take the vote.
Okay. My apologies. Public comment for the donation.
I just want to mention real quick, because everybody may not be aware of this, but a few years back when we started the Lucky Squirrel, at that time, the Straight Farmhouse was doing a flea market in the lot between the Oddfellows Hall and the Straight Farmhouse. And because this was going to interfere with them fundraising with their flea market, we agreed to do this as long as they volunteered for the Lucky Squirrel. So they send volunteers over for it, and that was the agreement at the time. Nothing written, anything like that. It was just a verbal thing. Yes, we're going to take your flea market away from you and your vendors, but we'll compensate you by
Okay.
making donations. So just a little bit of history.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment? Yeah. All right, since we've already taken, oh,
I
Comments
was just
from
going
the
to say that we could just make it official and have something written up so that we can have something pertaining to that to bring up at future meetings.
is that something you can draft up for us, John?
Sure.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. Next, we have information items, director's report.
In your packet, you find 9 items that I comment about, various things that have been happening with the downtown. There's one 10th item that wasn't on there, and it's a follow-up to item E3, which is the maintenance, the light, the meter box that was compromised on the southeast corner of Middle Belt and Ford Road, just south of the medical center. If you remember, it used to be a library sitting in front of it. That meter box was compromised from rust and corrosion. It fell over. DTE said shut it off. We were able to repair it after your approval of the $425 maintenance fee that had to do with that. So now it's back up standing, and DTE was contacted last Thursday, and they gave us a 4 to 5 day business window of turning on the power again. As of this morning, it was not turned on yet. I called them on Monday and left a message with them and put it on record that we're waiting for them. And then tomorrow, again, I will call them again to put it on record, and hopefully they'll have it on by the end of the week. So that'll take care of the lighting on the south side of Ford Road, right at Middle Belt, the street lights. And then it has to do with some of our sprinkler systems as well.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
Now, you just read through the director's report, and then if there's any questions you have on that, we can follow up on that.
Okay. Does anybody have any discussion on those items?
I do.
Okay.
On item number 6, do you have any more to say about that, or?
Item number 6 for general public's information was, I have a gentleman that was possibly interested in the Kmart space. It's very much in its infancy, but he has a desire to invest in that property and redevelop it. So I told him that we would work through that process and help and foster that as much as we could. So that's really just, this all came about last week, so it's really new. So I just want to let everybody know that we're, pursuing every opportunity.
Okay. Next item, oh, sorry.
I'd still like to, I know you have it listed, number 2, the chili cook-off, revenue and expenses. But that's, again, this is a little while, and about 5 or 6 times I've asked. The event was last year. Either there aren't receipts or there's nothing available, but we're coming on to the season of next year, of this year, it coming up again. It'd be nice to know what we paid for any of the equipment, so
Yes, sir.
it'd be nice to get that going.
Number 7, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which property are they talking about? On the northwest corner? What building? Is it the one?
So if you're familiar with State Farm,
I am.
to the east of that, actually to the east of,
Hershey Shoes?
no, that's to the west.
This isn't.
The west, the Hershey Shoes space is listed under, let's see here, number, my apologies, it isn't listed. As we know, the Hershey Shoes is being renovated for a real estate and title company to take over and move into there. But no hard information on that yet. That's all just conversation. But there is activity over there. It's been gutted and they're rebuilding that. The properties that number 7 is talking about, Mr. Weinstein's property, there's an interest in renting out one of his spaces that's been vacant, which was the old computer repair place. I think it's called PCI or PEI, something like that, right next to the customer care pharmacy.
Okay. Any other discussion? Next, we have the Mayor's Community Development Director proposal.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think you already have.
Thank you. All right.
All right, so first of all, this is just a proposal. I was finishing up with it this weekend. I believe I've answered most of the questions that the DDA board had. I will go through a couple of highlights. I'm not expecting approval or a vote on it tonight, unless you really want to, but it's a start for, or hopefully a good proposal for the board and for the city going forward. On the first page, probably the first major, where it starts out with the agreement, it states that the new position will work on DDA issues a minimum of 60% of the time. I would also first like to say that this hasn't been, I haven't passed it out to council or anybody, as it is a proposal, and if the DDA board does not like it or need some reworks, there's no use in passing out multiple proposals over and over again. So, again, this says that the DDA person will work a minimum of 60% of the time on DDA work. Further down a little bit, says when the economic development person is working in the capacity of DDA director, their detailed responsibilities will be that which is dictated by the DDA board as set out in the following DDA bylaws, which are our DDA bylaws. So they will be, this person, if we go that way, will follow our DDA bylaws 60% of the time when they're working on the minimum of 60% of the time when they're working on DDA stuff. On page 2, down near the bottom, it says, "It is also understood that when the Economic Development Director is working as the DDA Director, they work at the discretion of the DDA Board. Any development projects or other activities within the DDA corridor will still be the responsibility of the DDA board. Tax funding captured by the DDA will not change, and the use of that funding will be at the discretion of the DDA board. Paragraph 2 down, the financial agreement will be that the DDA board will contract with the city of Garden City for an annual flat fee of $70,000. Again, this is we would post it as a $100,000 an hour salary job with benefits and everything else. It would cost over $200,000 for the year. On page 3, if you go, pretty much the last paragraph up top, it says, through the hiring process, the authority will be permitted to DDA board members on the interview committee. As with most interview processes, committees tend to agree on the best candidate, but the DDA board should feel comfortable with who's chosen to help lead the authority. And I would, if we went that way, I would recommend that it would be the chair and one other board person that wants to do it. The city typically has 3 people do it. One would be the city manager, one is the HR director, and then one is typically a department head that might have an interest in that position. So again, it would probably be, 5 people, and it would be a consensus of the 5 moving forward who everybody's comfortable with. If the 2 DDA board people really don't like this person, then I would say I would know the city's not going to go for that person. Typically, they would agree. Go ahead,
But the
Laura.
majority would rule. So
Well-
typically, or the DDA could not even have anything to do with it because the city would have 3 and the DDA would have 2.
Yeah,
It could happen. It could happen.
It could happen, but
So why not resolve it and just put 3 and 3? And then you definitely should have a good majority or you don't have a majority.
if you...
Not lopsided, in
Oh.
other words.
Again, I would say 5 people are going to agree on the same person. Also, the city's putting in a lot more money. I know you, okay. Well, it's not going to be perfect, and,
No, but we could be fair. I mean, we want to work together, so
well, then
we
let's
could be fair.
let's split the pay, since they're giving you 60% of the time.
Mayor, it doesn't seem like anything was addressed, like, as far as our concerns that we had, that we discussed. Like, it seems like this is the same thing, except for maybe the financials or the responsibilities.
Yeah, you wanted this person to be responsible to the DDA board, which they will be.
No, oh, okay.
You wanted the authority over him, which any DDA project, the DDA board controls it. The money, the projects, anything in the DDA is subject to DDA. That was the big concern that we had before. He's going to spend, or she will spend 60% of the time on DDA work. Obviously, the city is concerned with starting at Ford and Middlebelt and working its way out. So that's going to be the vast majority of the work should be in the DDA area to start out with.
And then,
Well, if we
And
fill
then we
everything
would-
up in the DDA, then,
well, okay, so let's, I agree. The majority of the work would be in the downtown area, right? From Kmart's on where we have vacancies. But past those vacancies, and if he does his job and these vacancies are filled, we will not need him 60% of the time, right?
correct.
So then the city will be paying more then at that point, right? We're gonna you want us to pay more because he's going to focus downtown? And then we'll be paying for him to do the rest of the city?
Well, we're going to pay him to start out in the downtown area and try and fill that out first,
Oh, absolutely.
but, yeah, I
Would
mean.
it be a contract that this person does, like, say, a 2-year contract to develop our city, our downtown, and then,
We could look at a length of a contract, but he would, or maybe backing off after all the DDA activity or buildings or properties are filled, reducing it, the DDA pay. That would be something else that we could look at and possibly put in there. Again, this proposal and,
Because there's always like overturn in the downtown area, right? I mean,
Right, but right now, if these big buildings, right, if they're filled,
Yeah.
what are we talking about for overturn?
Right.
A building here and a building there? I
Right.
mean, and John, weren't you going to get with the mayor and his office about all of this before, from the
Yeah, that
last
was-
meeting?
that was
And
what
what happened with that?
Nothing. The board had stated, I think we agreed last month that I would work with the city manager and the mayor on this project, and nothing came of that. So this proposal is brand new to me as well. Just a couple other comments. One, it's my recommendation that no action takes on this. Obviously, there's board members missing, so there needs to be time for this to be reviewed once again. So spend some time on that. Number two, the DDA wasn't represented in the rework of this proposal, as we had talked about last month. So maybe we could revisit that. Maybe there's some type of opportunity for a workshop that involves some of these board members on the front side of that. I was to understand, somebody that gets hired by the city is solely hired under the city manager's jurisdiction. So maybe it's the city manager and a couple of these board members. And as our attorney for the DDA stated, and I know, Mr. Mayor, you represent the city as well, but you are a liaison to the city, but you are an equal trustee on this board, just as everyone else is. So I think we need to work our mindset, just shift it a little bit to say, not to say, oh, you guys wanted this and we want that. Let's figure out how we can say, we all want this and we all want that. And I don't know exactly what that looks like, but it's just a little mind shift that I think can help everybody in this, especially in this situation.
I took what we went through last meeting, and the specific things from the last proposal that the DDA board stated, they wanted a say in how the DDA director or the economic director would be, what kind of say they would have over him. On any DDA project, they have full control over him. The attorney did say that, yes, the DDA can hire or put money toward this person. I thought I addressed all the concerns, and I can go back and look at the video, but I'm pretty sure those were the main concerns of the DDA board.
Mayor?
Yes.
One of the concerns was the DDA having a director. And then we weren't against having an economics development position for the city, but still having a director. And I only look that way because he's the director right now, and then we still work together, but separate.
Okay.
Is there any reason John wasn't called in for that? Because he was supposed to meet with you per the last meeting.
Because I only tweaked a couple things to answer your questions. We didn't rework the whole proposal. That's the only reason.
So, okay, I'm just, it was agreed that he would meet with you, and you refused that and just did it yourself? Is that what I'm hearing?
I didn't refuse. I just reworked a couple things.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, again, this is just a proposal, as the mayor stated. There's nothing to be signed on or action taken. Like I said, we do have a couple of members missing, so they're going to need an opportunity to review this as well. And maybe it's in the best interest of the DDA members to write out your concerns, and then maybe we can, you can submit them in to me, and I'll just compile a list of the concerns that are coming from the board, and we can revisit this at our next DDA meeting.
Is there anything that we want Mark to take action on now for what we've heard tonight?
Again, I don't think it's in the best interest, or that you can, being that, you haven't, nobody's had the chance to read through this entire thing, because we just got it today. And then we, also, again, we do have members missing. And I don't know, but maybe a suggestion is, depending on when this was done, that you could submit this, so we put this in the packet, I don't know, for next time, or, so everybody get some eyes on it beforehand, or.
Well, I wasn't expecting any action to be taken tonight, and
Sure, yes, sir, understood.
I know
So-
it'll be probably on the internet by tonight anyway, so it won't really matter.
Yes, sir, okay, well, again, I don't think there's any action to be taken. It's informational, and it's a proposal, and do your diligence to look through it and read through it, and we can go from there.
Okay. Rick, do you have to go?
It's okay. No
Okay.
problem.
Okay. Next, we can move on to committee reports. Do you have anything?
As I stated earlier, the July Lucky Squirrel event is about 45% filled at this point, and the September one's about 55% filled. So we're just still taking applications, they're still coming in the mail, still talking to people, and so that's continuing on. Yes.
What type of vendors are allowed there? Anything, or does it have to be licensed?
Yeah, within a reasonable, like, if you were selling, quote, yard sale items, you rented a space and wanted to sell household items, some are arts and crafts, some are various things.
There's no like food trucks or like something like
There's, we allow a small percentage of food trucks, or we just try not to be redundant in the activities that we have. Like, we don't want a hot dog vendor, another hot dog vendor, things like that, so. Item E3, the maintenance on the lighting meter box, I've already addressed that. And then item 4, marketing, really is just about a business retention campaign. So as I stated last month, we've been working to post and share the retail spaces and commercial spaces that are available in the downtown area. The next step is to work on helping the businesses that we do have. If you noticed, myself and the mayor had attended, and some other council member and other city officials attended a grand opening for Community Care Pharmacy. Miss Dr. Hyder just did an opening last Monday, so we posted about that, and that's good for the downtown, good for the city, and really trying to promote business retention, right? Like, we're thankful you're here, we're grateful to have you, thanks for being part of the city, so on and so forth. So that's all I have on those reports.
Okay. And now we'll call for open discussion. Anyone from the audience have anything they'd like to talk about that was not on the agenda? Okay. Any additional talk from the table? Mark?
Yeah, I have a couple things. Working with the council, we do some rules of procedure, which are kind of a form of, well, they are the Roberts Rules of Orders, which we follow. So I was going to pass some of these out. And again, a couple of highlights if we go to like page 4, our agenda. Some of our other boards and commissions do similar but a little different. They have the Pledge of Allegiance in there. It's kind of more organized. We would still, obviously go down, place for community events, public comments for the agenda items, public comments for non-agenda items, and so forth. And again, I don't expect any action tonight, but something to look at to possibly do in the future. Just a little bit different, kind of similar to different commissions and boards that do things. Something for this board to look at and possibly consider. And that's it on that. If anyone has questions on that one.
Any questions from the table?
Just comment, thank you for doing that, for putting that together.
No problem. And finally, I'm still having an issue with the CGE contract. So I know we have some new board members and some that aren't familiar with everything that's gone on. But I did put a history even for the ones that have been here for a while. So I'm going to kind of just go through it. There's a lot of dates. It goes back a lot of years. And I'm going to go from there and probably answer any questions or try to after. So in April of 2014, our current DDA attorney, Mr. Covier, he made an opinion that DDA should have a purchasing policy. And I'll quote that. Part of it says, "A request for opinions has been made regarding whether the Garden City DDA is authorized to make purchases without approval from the City Council of Garden City and whether the DDA is subject to the Garden City purchasing ordinance." And basically, the answer was, the DDA is not subject to the same policy as the city. And he writes, "We will now address the issue of whether the DDA is subject to the Garden City purchasing ordinance." And in it he says, "Thus, the DDA is not subject to the Garden City purchasing ordinance. Although the DDA is not subject to the purchasing policy of the city, it is our understanding that the DDA does follow a purchasing and bid protocol. It is advisable for the DDA to follow such protocol when making purchases and seeking bids, and the DDA board should consider reviewing the current protocol to determine whether improvements are warranted." And again, that was April of 14, and that was from our current attorney. In May of 2014, DDA purchasing policy, these are from the regular meeting minutes. Trustee York's, and this is, chairman was Bruce Bolin, vice chair Ken Versell, secretary Penny Clee, John Santu, treasurer John Fleming, Dan York, Warren Mazzoni, Mayor Randy Walker, Bob Squires, John Prosh, and Melissa Freeman. Executive director back then was Stacy Tobar, and development assistant was Kim Dold. And the DDA action item number 2 was DDA purchasing policy, and it says trustee York submitted a recommendation. A committee was formed to review and submit to the board a proposal. The committee consists of trustees York, Fleming, Freeman, and chairperson Bolin. That was May 13th of 2014, and the policy, again, May of 2014, it was suggested the board develop a DDA purchasing policy and formalize the document. The board should discuss what items should be in the policy. Attached is the city's policy for reference. Currently, the DDA policies, the executive director has discretionary limit of $1,500. All items above are presented to the DDA board. Also included, the DDA attorney documented a legal opinion dated April 23rd, 2014 regarding DDA DDA's purchasing policies as requested by Councilmember Shashersky. Please provide input as to what thresholds, procedures you would like for us to consider in a DDA policy. They will draft a policy or review in June. June of 2014, DDA purchasing policy under action items. A purchasing policy committee by Dan York, John Fleming, and Melissa Freeman met to discuss and propose a DDA purchasing policy. They will present a draft for input and consideration. June 24th of 2014, action item DDA purchasing policy. Motion to accept DDA purchasing policy with additions. Number one, any items $1,500 and under per transaction may be approved by the DDA director. Split orders are not allowed. Number two, the DDA board by majority vote may overrule any portion of this policy. And June 24th, 2014, there was regular meeting, and that was authorized by the DDA. And their policy is, that they came up with in 2014, any discretionary items $1,500 and under per transaction, not to exceed $5,000 per month, may be approved by the DDA director. Split orders are not allowed. All non-budgeted, non-emergency items from $1,501 to $5,000 must be presented to the DDA board for approval. Bids, quotes are not required. All budgeted items up to $5,000 may be obtained with credit card. Any item above $5,000 must be paid through invoice by check. All items $5,001 to $10,000 must be accompanied by 3 quotes or attempts documented through form obtained by the DDA director or designate for approval by the DDA board. All items $10,001 or more must be handled through a sealed bid RFP and approved by the DDA board. Any items in which the DDA board may consider factors other than price, such as past performance of vendor, concern over product, bid, etc., must be stated in the bid documentation. These procedures are intended for purchases of items or products and are not required for services or services performed under existing contracts. Any emergency purchases, issues, situations above the DDA director's $1,500 limit up to $20,000 may be approved by 3 members of the DDA executive board. The DDA board by majority vote may overrule any portion of this policy. July 15th of 2014, that was when Stacy Kober left and Kim Dole became DDA interim director. And the DDA purchasing policy and credit card. The new purchasing policy was approved at the June meeting. One of the items included a new maximum credit card amount of $5,000. Documentation has been forwarded to the city clerk, Allison Bettis, requesting that she handle the change with Bank of America. So that was in July of 14. And in August the 14th, the policy final draft, it said, is revised and presented and approved. December 21st of 2021. Information items, members of the board at that time were, Chair was John Fleming, on the board was John Prosh, Mayor Randy Walker, Penny Klee, Kevin Kramus, John Santu, Charlotte Laurie, and Alex Baydoun, Stacy Karafotis, Malik Hyder, Director was Kim Dold, and information items, street pole integrity, D2. Director Dold is working with CGE and Hennessy to locate a company that can verify the structural integrity of the poles. That was December 21. June of 22, the report came out that approximately half of the streetlights are in good condition. The others need to be replaced. Report from CEI to CGE as a start, looking to get a ballpark on what this will cost. I believe this is from Chairman Fleming. I don't believe we will be able to match our existing poles, so we may be looking at a total replacement. So this is in June of 22 after December of 21 when we found out they were bad. July of 22, after consulting with DPW Director Brad Oman, with administration from CGE and several others, fixing the poles is not possible. I've received a proposal from CGE for removal of the 12 most critical poles. I believe it is imperative that we act quickly on this. That was July of 22. In January of 23, we paid CGE $1,787.50 to put together a bid spec sheet, or bid spec, to put out a bid for this project, which at that time was half of what the actual cost was. So apparently we were paying $3,500 to CGE to put together a bid package, or a spec package, to put this project out to bid, which we never did. We just gave them the contract. So having done all that, we have spent approximately $1,800 to put out a bid spec, that our spec package that we haven't gotten. We just awarded a no-bid contract for $989,000. We paid our attorney $2,000 for his opinions on if this was acceptable to go out without a bid, of which he never mentioned that there's a purchasing policy even in place. Personally, I don't think he represented us very well. I don't think it was right that he told this board that we should take that contract, or take that contract, because otherwise we'd be liable for a lawsuit, even though there was no spec sheet, there's no mention of a purchasing policy. He knew about it, and he didn't inform this board. I think that's not right. I think we're in a bad spot, honestly. We paid to get, we don't know where the $1,800, or at least I don't know where the $1,800 went that we put out for the bid specs, or the specs. So I'm not sure where that $1,800 went. I'm not sure how CGE got a no-bid contract for $956,000. I still say that the $400,000 that CGE fronted the DDA is a loan in any sense that you say. Anytime you front money to get money back, that's a loan. Apparently, our attorney's not sold on that, but I think we're in violation of our own policy. I don't see the imminent danger. This started in 21, and the dangerous lights were taken down, and they were not, it wasn't an issue, they shouldn't be an issue now. So, I think we're into an illegal, we signed an illegal contract. You know, our chairman pushed for this contract with CGE, of which he then abruptly resigned. I think we need to do some more investigating, and I'm not sold on this. I think it should be brought up to another attorney. I think we should look for another opinion from an attorney. And that's my opinion on this. I'm not, I think we violated a lot of our own policies, and we did not get proper representation from our attorney, DDA attorney. So,
Mr.
Mr.
Mayor,
Mayor?
that's just your opinion, that the legal counsel we have is not as good as your legal counsel of you?
no, it's not a personal opinion. That's, did our DDA attorney ever once mention a purchasing policy?
No, but as you stated in that purchasing policy, the last line states, "The DDA board, by majority vote, may overrule any portion of this policy."
Did we ever take a majority vote?
We did.
To
did.
overrule, to not put out a bid process?
Yeah.
It
Yes,
was
we
8 to
did.
1.
Matter of fact, we all concurred.
And the chairman did not
All in
push
favor.
this through. We all voted and we agreed, and we spent a lot of time with CG. We had meeting after meeting, and he basically said that he was going to outbid any other company that bid for the labor, and that the cost of materials would be the same all across the board. And we all took a vote.
Oh,
Well, you weren't on the board at the time.
well, I also couldn't find it in any of the minutes.
Our vote that
Yes.
we did?
To override the bid process, the purchasing policy.
Pardon me?
I know you already called for public comment at the end of the meeting, but considering that I was the director at the time and I have history on this, I would ask permission to address it.
Okay. Are you finished?
Mayor, are you looking for answers, or are you just putting out the information, or what are you asking?
I think there needs to be more investigative work before we just, again, I disagree with this contract. I don't think it's a legal contract. I don't think
Is it
it's,
just him, or is it
But he's-
just?
I think we violated our own policy and laws, which would make it illegal, which is opening us up. I don't ever, and I can't find in any minutes where we over voted to not put this out for bid, to bypass our purchasing policy and put it out, just to award it.
I do
We
believe
did
that
vote
that
that.
occurred at the meeting that you weren't not in attendance.
Which the
Or-
attorney already said was not a valid meeting.
Ms. Vice Chair, it's up to you what you want to do. You can take comments, or we can just take this information and I can come back to this board with more breakdowns, more information that you're requesting. We can also go back and spend some more on attorney fees to see if the very fact that the vote that was made is an automatic override of exactly what this purchasing policy is in this situation. It's up to you, board.
Let me just ask one question. Per this purchasing power, we have the power to override it. We have to vote if we want to use the power to override it?
That's what the mayor's stating, and
That does it-
what I'm saying is the fact that you did the vote is an automatic understanding that you did override it and just go straight to the action.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
100%. And in fact, there were no nays. Every person on the board voted for this. So, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, you're coming in after and you're saying that none of our votes count because you want it done differently, because you want to vote in it, and it's already been voted and approved
It-
with a different mayor on the board.
I'm going by your purchasing policy, our purchasing policy that says by vote, by majority vote, may overrule any portion of this policy.
and that's
We
what
did, we did.
You voted to overrule it.
Yes.
No, you
And
just
not
voted.
just as a and not just a majority, but we were 100% all in favor.
Okay. I disagree with how that policy went, because you didn't vote to override the policy, the purchasing policy. You just awarded to give the contract to CGE.
Is
We
there
voted to
someone that
not
you
put
want to
it to
give it
bid.
to?
What's that?
We voted to not put it out to bid, to award them the bid.
But why not, though? Why didn't we get a chance to see a different, I'm just asking, why didn't they get a chance to see a different company's proposal?
Because he said his company would,
How do you know that, though? I deal with people all the time. I deal
We-
with contractors all
we
the
already
time.
had a relationship with them.
Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty good quote the other day, and I got it smashed by a different person that did a 10 times better job. I've been doing this for a long time. I don't take anybody's word for anything. I'll take a different, quote and go from there and see what kind of,
So just to give you a little information, we could use inferior materials, right, in a different quote. We were only going to put to bid the labor,
the labor itself.
just the labor,
Yeah.
so that we made sure that the materials were 100, which were the materials that actually he brought us, and we all reviewed over and over.
The material is one thing, the labor is another. Like, I tried,
But we also have our last project that was done with him, right?
sure, yeah.
And how long did that project, that was how long ago, 20 years ago, almost?
No,
These
I
poles
think they
have
did
been
the
15 years
LED
ago?
lights recently.
Yeah.
I don't know what year
I
it was.
just say.
Mr. Mayor, in objection to where you think this is at currently, what is it that you would like to see happen
Yeah.
in lieu of the fact that this contract is happening? It's, in the process. What do you see the next step is if in fact all those things you state are, curbing you from wanting this to happen? I mean, regardless, I think we all agree, regardless of who you are, those lights need to be replaced. No question, right? We know that. We're in the process. We're 50% into this process. Where does it go from here?
How are we paying for this again?
The budget,
Okay. We have enough money.
you approved it.
Okay. So we're not going before council for any kind of loan?
From my understanding, no.
Okay.
I
I
think
still
there
think
was
this-
some question with other board members about the ability to, there was discussion about financing the balance of the project with CGE, and then I think yourself and John Fleming going to Brian Marciniak to see about financing the balance of the project through the city.
That's correct.
And that discussion, did it happen?
Because we didn't need to.
Yes, it did happen. I had multiple conversations with Brian about it, but after talking with Chair Fleming at the time, the budget reflected that between previous fiscal and this coming up fiscal year, that we were just going to pay cash for it. Are you stating if we go to a loan with the city council, that's where it stops? Is that what you're saying?
I do not know. I've not talked to council about it. I know council's sent questions to you that they're still waiting on answers for, so,
The only council member I've worked with is Councilmember Lynch, and she's got all the answers that I have.
okay.
I can copy that in email for you if you like.
No, it's between you and her. I don't need it. Okay, I just pointed out some of the history and what my opinion still is on it.
I don't know. Kim, did you still feel the need to make some?
There were just a couple of things. Mayor Jacobs did state a couple of times that he was kind of disappointed in the DDA attorney that he didn't supply or mention the purchasing policy. Every time a new member came on board, you were given a notebook. Every single one of you has been given that purchasing policy. So you had that. Everybody had it. Why
I
would-
don't have it.
I gave it to you. When you came on the board, you got the book, the packet with the bylaws, with everybody's contact information, all that stuff's in there. The purchasing policy was always part of that. And as far as CGE, we've worked with them a lot in the past, and the reason why I consulted them, trying to find a company that would test the integrity of those poles, after one went down in the middle of the night on Ford Road, you can't find a company that would do that. So I reached out to CGE, like anybody would reach out to somebody they've worked with before, and they assisted the DDA with finding a company to do that. When that report came back, like Mayor Jacobs said, there were approximately half of them with questionable integrity. About a dozen of them, they said immediately, you have to take these down immediately. Those are gone. There's still a quarter of the hole that's left that have to come down, so replacing all of them only made sense. And I believe the 1,800, when Gary Zaplitny was in from CGE talking about that and actually helping the DDA by creating the bid specs, if we were going to put it out to bid. If I'm not mistaken, I thought he said that if we went with their company, that item would, or that amount would be absorbed. So,
Do we see that in anything from him?
I have a note to follow up with that,
Okay.
as well as the breakdown and a couple other items.
I seem to recall that as well. I seem to recall that as well, that it would be absorbed, so.
yeah, and that's,
So that's a good point,
That's all I
okay.
had.
Okay. Ms.
I have a little issue here. We've been working on this issue called a managerial audit, and at the last DDA meeting, the ex-mayor made a comment. He'd brought the information to the old committee. They didn't do anything. If he was a prudent leader, he could have went to council and asked for a managerial audit, and we would have had this resolved. So what are we going to do on addressing this managerial audit? Because looking at the fire department, it's got to be done internally. It's doing what nobody is following the charter. The charter is so obsolete.
This-
No, we're
this
sitting
is a
here,
DDA
you're
meeting.
criticizing the
Miss-
DDA for
Mr.
their
Murray.
action, and I'm telling you, as a council person, you failed
Mr. Murray,
us.
please.
Thank you.
We're at discussion for the board. Mike, do you have anything to discuss?
Not at all.
Okay.
Good,
Lori,
I'm
anything
good.
from you? Anything from you?
I think I said everything.
Charlotte? Rick?
No further for me. Thank you.
Okay. No other discussion? This meeting is adjourned.